Hey guys, this is April Fournier. I want to talk to you today about diversity in preschool and how we can identify whether it's a difference or a disability when we're working with children who are English language learners or ethnically diverse. So our preschools and our Head Starts are seeing an increase of children who are from families who are learning English as a second language. And so often these children and their experience in preschool is the family's first introduction to our educational system and educational expectations here in the U.S. These children are a great addition. They bring a lot of new experience, culture, and language to classrooms at such a very young age, but they also present a challenge where they are learning English as a second language and they're having maybe some difficulties adapting to this new environment, following instructions, following routines. And so we're having some challenges in identifying, is it a disability or is it just part of that acquisition process? So when these children enter the classrooms, they're learning English, they're learning expectations of a new environment, they're learning how to communicate with peers. That's a lot to go on and a lot to happen for these young kiddos. And so it's difficult for educators to determine, is it a result of a developmental delay or is it an actual disability? There's also the challenge where these children may have learned conversational English just through exposure, but they don't know academic English. And so it's not something that may show up in these early years, but something that will show up as they get to more writing and reading and less conversation. So as our teachers are working with all of these kiddos in the classroom, these children often will present with maybe some behaviors, and that is the first step to identifying, maybe we should gather some more information. And so children who are English language learners may present with behaviors like being inattentive or ignoring verbal requests or refusing verbal requests. They may engage in yelling or even some aggressive behaviors like hitting or kicking or bolting. And teachers may have a difficult time identifying if these behaviors are as a result of an emotional challenge or just the child is not understanding what's going on because English isn't their first language. And so there is also the possibility that kiddos that are engaging in these behaviors do have a true disability, but it's important for the educator to be able to take both into consideration when making a referral. So some studies have been done to determine what can we do, or is there really an issue? And so one study that was completed by Hardin in 2007 actually took 140 preschool educators or educational professionals talking about specifically identification and evaluation of English language learners. And what they found showed that often there's not a lot of consistency in identification, which definitely makes for mistake if you don't have consistency. A lot of the identification or using the right tools largely depends on the educator and their experience in dealing with diverse populations. Also, many educators don't receive enough training on identifying and supporting English language learners. And then screening and evaluation tools that are used aren't always intended for all audiences and maybe have not been tested previously on children who are learning English as their second language. Another study completed by Moyer in 2008 actually took a larger sampling of 75,000 preschool children to determine if there was an over-identification and if there was also any teacher bias. And this was completed in 5 southern states. And what it found in this population was speech language impairment was the highest impairment category that was identified. Developmental delay was the second highest. The assessments that were being used were not designed for children who were English language learners. And the teachers who had more experience and similar ethnicity actually had lower referral rates than some of their Caucasian counterparts. So the way that this impacts our community is that it takes a lot of time out of everybody to be able to refer a child for screening, to discuss all of this with the families, to complete evaluations, to have them be presented, to do all of the paperwork and the referrals and the mailing time. So that's one cost. Another cost is the resources. If a child is misidentified and they start to receive special education services, then they may be putting another child who needs the services that farther back, and having to wait for those services to be available. And it also puts a strain on the relationships with these families. The families may become frustrated with the process, and may lose trust in the educational team. So what do we do to fix this? There's definitely a few areas where we can improve as educators, on making sure that as we identify diverse populations for special education services, we're using the right tools. So part of that is improving educator training on identifying and supporting English language learners. Making sure that we're utilizing screening and assessment tools that have been designed to support this population, and including the family as often and as early as possible, so that we're understanding the whole child, not just their language, but also culturally, what has been expected of them up to their entry into preschool, what do things look like at home, and then how that translates into classroom behaviors and hopefully improving behaviors so that the child gets the best learning experience possible, and really gets set up to become a lifelong learner. So I hope this was informative and educational, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you and have a great day.